Hey, babe, you got a minute?
Sure.
Well, I know we've been talking a lot about the shootings, the one at Brown University and the one that occurred in Australia. And I know that you have really been emotionally impacted by that. And you shared that you were considering making a video, and maybe getting some information out there. And I was just curious, why now? You've been retired for almost 6 years. So why now? Why is it important now?
Well, Lisa, thank you for asking. And I think it's important that we talk about this. You know, um, I served 30 years with the Las Vegas Police Department. I had the fortunate opportunity to promote all the way to the rank of assistant sheriff. I worked with the current sheriff, uh, Kevin McMahill. Had the opportunity to work with the previous sheriff and now our governor, Joe Lombardo. And as you know, we responded to the Route 91 shooting, the deadliest mass shooting in our nation's history. And so looking at this Brown shooting, as well as the incident in Australia, it really hit home for me. We got a daughter. Our daughter is still in college, down at Chapman University. But our nephew, Evan, went to Brown, graduated from Brown, still goes there to mentor and share with students about how the successes of what he's done with his business. And when I saw that Brown shooting, I thought about what if Evan was there and he was exposed to that or a victim of that. And I didn't take the opportunity to share with him some of the things that he probably should do or could do, or share with our daughter what she could or should do. And so for me, I wanted the opportunity to talk to people about what they could do to prevent, respond, and actually recover from something like this. Because a lot of people are wondering what to do. There's confusion, there's fear. And that's what these folks do when they do these types of incidents. They create terror. That's why oftentimes it's called like a terrorist type tactic with these active shooters and these mass shootings. And so I think it's important that we get the word out and give people something to think about to maybe prevent these situations, as well as give them some tools to think about if they respond to it, how they will respond to something like this happening. And then, of course, think about how to recover from this, because the aftermath, we're still traumatized by watching it on the news. It's the thing that's there. And so look at it. Here we're supposed to be celebrating during the holidays, and that's the thing that's taking more time in our day.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, now I want to kind of go back because you said there's something that people can do. What can people do? Just if you can just kind of bullet point, just an easy way for me to understand and comprehend, what can people do?
Well, first of all, folks need to understand, and I'm not trying to say that I'm an expert, okay? But I have some information and knowledge and experience that may help somebody. It may save someone's life. And the thing that people can do is hopefully try to prevent these things from happening. It's important to prevent crime or prevent situations. And one of the best way to prevent it is there's a slogan or a term that came up: if you see something, you say something. And oftentimes, as you know, we often see once they capture the suspect or the suspect takes their life, the active shooter takes their life, law enforcement goes out and talks to the family, friends, and coworkers. And many times you hear these people saying, this person started acting weird. This person started making threats. This person started being paranoid. This person started doing behaviors that they hadn't done before. They start talking about they want to, go buy a gun to harm someone. oftentimes they'll say they want to kill someone. They'll tell people what they want to do. And very often people minimize that. And so I think we try to block it out and rationalize these things. And it's important. Law enforcement has told people for a long time now, if you see something, say something. And people need to understand they're not crying wolf anymore. And law enforcement knows how to handle this. They know how to respond to this and evaluate these situations. So that's one of the keys to prevention is there's a term we used to say in policing, JDLR, just don't look right. When that spidey sense kicks in, something tells you this don't feel right. You need to listen to that. Now, I'm not saying call 911 on all of these situations. You can't overwhelm the police department like that. But you do need to say something if things just don't look right and let somebody know. And they'll come out, evaluate it. If there's a clear explanation that this person hasn't went nuts and is about to harm himself or others, they'll leave them alone. They might memorialize it and document it. But they may intervene and address this and prevent someone from dying. Imagine this, the Route 91 shooting. This guy at Mandalay Bay back in October 1st, 2017. This guy, after the incident, all this footage was pulled from surveillance at Mandalay Bay. They saw this guy taking numerous carts of containers and different things, and they realized later on that's when he was doing his preparation and planning. He had so many guns in that room that he had taken up, and it actually showed on the video how the porters were helping him take the stuff up there. Imagine if someone may have noticed and felt that was a little odd or suspicious, and they said something, and someone had checked this out. There could have been a chance that this could have been prevented. So it's important when folks see things like this, that suspicious activity, to see, if they see it, to say something and call law enforcement and let them know, let them check it out.
So you mentioned JDLR, just doesn't look right. So when a person sees something like that, say something, are we calling 911? Are we calling 311? What's the best way to get that information to the authorities?
Well, as you know, here in Nevada, people can open carry. So you can have a firearm, exposed, or you can even be CCW. The thing is, 911 typically no. If it's not an immediate threat, no. Don't call 911 for all those things that just don't look right. However, call 911 if someone has a gun out and they're threatening someone. So this is when you just don't feel comfortable and it looks like suspicious activity, or people's making threats that they haven't acted on yet, or that type of situation.
Understood. So we talked about see something, say something, and just doesn't look right. So what do you think people need to know to prepare for a response to a shooting? How can people prepare for that?
Well, that's a great question. And I think a lot of people wonder, what should I do if this happens?
Yeah. A
lot of people don't know what to do. You and I have talked about what if situations. That's something they should do right there. What if? What if when you're watching these incidents on TV that have occurred, what if that happened to you? Ask yourself, what if that happened to you? What would you do? Okay? Now, most of us panic. I would probably be very stressed out and upset and in a panic state and have the adrenaline just go through the roof, if someone just starts shooting at me or at others and start killing someone. And so mental preparation is critical. And the things but it's not that much folks have to think about, particularly just regular John Q. citizen. The thing they should be thinking about is running, hiding, and fighting if you got to. And so what I mean by that is run. When that person starts shooting and start killing folks, do not get your phone out and start filming this. You look at the Australia shooting, they have so much footage of that. Entertainment factor is not that important if you're dead, okay? Those people should have been running. They should have been getting away from that threat, not trying to videotape these suspects that are out there shooting. You run, and you run zigzag, whatever. Get away from that threat. Don't let it stand there and watch and freeze. You got to get out of there. So when you go to the movies, when you go to these concerts, when you go to large outdoor events, when you go to church, when you're at any place, particularly any place there's a large gathering, but even with schools, your children should be thinking about what they're going to do. Where are the exits? How do you get out of there? Okay, so the first thing is to run. All right, try to get away from that threat as best you can. Now, don't run into the jeopardy. The police are going to run towards the gunfire. Thank God for our law enforcement and all our first responders, including fire. They're going to run towards the gunfire, but everybody else should be running away if they can. Okay, and get away from it. And that's what I would tell our daughter. That's what I've told her. And tell her to tell all her friends, run, get away from it. The next thing you want to do is hide. You need to hide as best you can. Take cover. And when I say take cover, get behind something that could stop a bullet, okay? If it's available. Get behind something that could stop a bullet. But when you go back to the Australia shooting, it was out in the open at Bondi Beach. It's a lot of open area there. So wherever you could get, change in elevation, get behind a car where the front engine area is at, get behind a rock, lay down, go behind a building, get behind something that could stop a bullet and get away from that threat, so you take yourself away from that harm. So that's important to hide. But if you can't have something to stop a bullet, just get behind something where the suspects can't see you. The next thing, and if you've exhausted all that, you're cornered inside a room or something at a building, an office building, at work, you're at school or college or something like that, you got to try to barricade the door. You got to try to hide. As you're calling the police, be quiet. Let him go by. He's looking they're typically male, but they're not all males, but they're looking for someone. They just want a body count. They want to have the most that they can get. It's sad. I don't understand it. It's crazy. Someone once said, if you understand it, it might be something wrong with you. So I don't understand what someone thinks that they could just take life like that so haphazardly and not caring. But you got to be ready to fight. You got to be ready to fight, and by any means necessary, use whatever you can get your hands on as a weapon to take that threat out. You saw that guy in Australia go up to the side of the one suspect. It was, I guess, father, son, and he grabbed one of them and took the gun away from this man. Now he should have incapacitated him. He should have taken him out. So I'm not advocating he just should have shot him. A lot of people say he should have shot him, but if that's what's necessary, you got to do that. And folks got to be prepared to do that. But that person has come to kill. And look at what happened. When he took the gun and the suspect ran away and went back up there, I think, with his son and got another gun. And they shot the guy that disarmed him. So he wasn't incapacitated. He didn't take him out. And I salute him for his heroics. And that's the thing. He was trying to stop that shooter. And I believe that man saved lives. I know he saved lives because he interrupted this person who was shooting at people trying to kill him. There's no doubt in my mind he saved life, and he put his life in danger on behalf of others. He is a true hero. I don't think he had law enforcement training. I don't know, but he went in there to intervene to stop that suspect, and that's what people have to do. Whatever you got to do to stop that threat, why just stand there and die? Take them out. Try to stop it. And take those suspects out. And that's what you got to do when you corner it. And you don't necessarily have to fire them. Use whatever you can get your hands on. If you got to grab a brick, if you got to grab a chair, if you got to grab a pencil, whatever, do whatever you and bum rush them. If it's a bunch of you, everybody go. He might shoot one. They might shoot one or two. But they won't get everybody. And I'm not saying anybody sacrifice, but you can't stand there and all just be like in a firing squad and let these clowns kill everyone. Yeah. You got to fight to take them down.
Yeah. You mentioned that for some reason when you were talking about run, and I know you said run, hide, and fight. You know, when you were talking about running, something came back to me that you always talk about. I think it's called situational awareness. You know, now I think you have so many people that are heads down in their phones and not really paying attention to their surroundings. I know every time we go somewhere, you position yourself so you can see your exits and who's coming in. Can that play a part in keeping yourself safe?
Absolutely, it's mental preparedness. You know, you'll see the movies come on. We go and they'll say, make sure you know where the exits are at, and it typically talks about for a fire or something like that. But you probably have a better chance of having an active shooter in the movies or at church or at an event than you do of having to deal with a fire. You know, so people have to change that mindset. The world we live in, it's a sad world we live in. And with the liberties that we have, where people, the freedoms that they could get whatever, you know, firearms just readily available to just about anyone, where we have the gun rights laws, which is fine. I'm not trying to get into that debate. However, at the same time, we have to understand our world, particularly our country, is not ready to change and take away our freedoms. You know, you don't have metal detectors at church. You don't have metal detectors at schools. You know, we look at how our world changed after, you know, when we had 9/11. You know, we used to be able to go to the gate at the airport and pick up your family coming in. Now you can only get through TSA if you have a ticket. You know, so that a lot of people complain about those freedoms being taken away. But that's something we had to do post-event. And we're a little bit more understanding after it happens. But we have to realize this is our reality. You know, as sad as it is, this is our reality. And I often talk about the fact it's not a matter of if, but when. It's sad to say, that's just really sad. It's not a matter of if, but when it's going to happen again. And that's just really, really scary.
You know, if you find yourself in a situation like that, I don't know if you can share, but what should be expected when law enforcement or those first responders arrive at a scene like that?
That's a very good question, because
help?
you notice that situation when he disarmed that guy in Australia and took the gun away and then pointed it at him. He actually put himself in danger, because as law enforcement is responding, they're looking for the threat. It's chaos. It's chaos. It's mass confusion. 911 is going to be overwhelmed. The system, you might get a busy tone when you call 911, because everybody's calling 911 at the same time. The cell lines may go down. The police, they're not waiting for SWAT. Okay, ever since Columbine, police don't wait for the SWAT teams or the emergency response teams to come. They're trained to go in there and take out that threat. They're coming in, those uniform officers on the street, bless their heart, they're coming to take out that threat and put their life, they're going towards the gunfire. As people running this way, they're running that way to get that knucklehead, to get those assholes. They're going to take out that threat. And so it's key, like I've told you, oftentimes we go out, and you know, most of the time when we go out, I'm armed. And I'll say, hey, babe, remember, if some go down, you know what to tell them. You know, number one, get down. Because if they start shooting, I'm going to start putting some rounds down range to try to stop that threat. Okay? That's just, I pray it never happens. But that's the mental preparedness that I have, because I have some training that was provided to me. I still regularly qualify on an annual basis to make sure that that skill stays sharp. But the police are coming to take out that threat. So they might mistake me for being the active shooter when my firearm is out. They could have mistaken that man for being the active shooter, when in fact he was the one trying to save them. So it's important, you know, once you neutralize threat, I may put my gun down. I'm gonna put my hands up. And that's important when they come and you hear the police come. Let's say you've hidden from the suspect. Get your hands up, listen to the police, do everything they tell you. If they tell you to get on the ground, get on the ground, lay down, follow the police instructions. You know, do exactly what they tell you to do. Realize they're in fear of their lives too. They're afraid. They're scared. I remember when we responded to October 1st, I didn't understand. I wasn't sure the suspect was down. When I pulled into Mandalay Bay to go to that scene, he was later found out he was already down. But we had echo shootings where people had got shot and they had ran to different locations. And now we think, oh, there's a person shows up shot at the Luxor. We thought we had a shooter there. We had a person in New York, New York. We thought we had a shooter there. We had a person over by the airport. We thought we had another shooter there. You know, MGM, we thought we had another shooter there. There were victims running everywhere. So the police, and I was part of that, we thought we had shooters everywhere. And so there's a level of paranoia and concern and fear. That's the real deal. They're in fear of their lives as well. And they're trying to save people's lives. So it's important to listen to the police and do what they tell you to do. And, you know, make sure your hands are up where you can see them. And if they're coming, put the weapon down. If you did happen to have a weapon, any type of weapon, whether it's a firearm, a knife, a chair, whatever you grab to try to take that suspect out.
Yeah. You've actually discussed some really, really important points, you know, things that I think are extremely helpful. Is there anything else that you can think of that you would want to share with folks to keep themselves as safe as possible in the climate that we're in?
Well, you know, I think it's important to also cover, you know, and you had a lot to do with this when you oversaw our police employee assistance program. And what people need to think about is the recovery. What's going to happen is, as you see now, we're still being traumatized by these events. You know, one happens and then right after the other, and it's consumed on all the news channels. You can't get away from it. It's constant. They're trying to find him. And now you don't even, the person is still out there. I think it took us a while. Not us, I say us because I was prior law enforcement, but, you know, it took them a while to identify and locate the suspect. They're looking for this person. You remember the guy that shot the CEO in New York. And just as he was walking down the street, I think United Healthcare, that suspect, particularly when they're still outstanding, the Charlie Kirk shooter, when they're still outstanding and they're looking for him, there's fear, there's panic. You know, folks are afraid. And so we continue to be traumatized until they get them. Terrorists, i.e. the word terrorist, that we're terrorized for a significant period of time. So people got to realize, even if they're not physically injured, if you experience that situation, you're going to have some emotional scars. And it's important that you get help. Certainly we got to help those who are in physical jeopardy first. You know, I had someone approach me today after I was talking about this. They said, Charles, you know, with your channel, you may look at showing people how to do a tourniquet. You know, I said, wow. He's actually a friend of mine. He's a pilot. He says, I think you should do that. And he asked me, he said, Charles, if you know, I appreciate you talking about this. And he said, I agree with you, man. This might save a life. And he said, do something, show people how to handle a tourniquet. He mentioned a stat I hadn't heard. He said a significant number of people from that event could have lived if folks knew how to apply a tourniquet. And you could use anything. I could pull this shirt off and tie it up on something and you stop that bleeding. And so I think that's important. And that's, you and I both have said, we want to, you know, as we celebrate this, as you call it, the remix of life you've shared, you know, we get in our retirement years and we enjoy that. You know, you often ask yourself, what can you do? And so here's an opportunity for us to tell people there are some things you could do. And so coming back to your question, as we recover, certainly the physical injured come first. But everyone that's been emotionally traumatized by that, particularly those that were there to experience that event, have to realize they may need some help and understand it's okay not to be okay. You've told me that many times as you worked with our police employee assistance program to help people, to seek help. I went to counseling after October 1st. I think you went as well. We went to counseling, and I thought it was helpful. I didn't think I had any issues or anything. But as you know, as law enforcement, we often compartmentalize these things as we experience it. We compartmentalize it and it manifests in other things, in our relationships, and how we deal with different things. And so if a person doesn't process that, if they're not talking to a counselor, if they're not talking to family, if they're not talking to friends, if they're not talking to their clergy, their pastors, and folks like that, they may emotionally, just explode and just don't know how to handle this and start having sleeping issues and health issues, because it's still on them. And so it's important to get that out and talk to people and don't isolate, to come and have discussions and just recover from that, because I think oftentimes, our pride kicks in. I'm okay. I'm all right. And oftentimes we're not, particularly even more so with men. We that's just part of who we are. We see that as a form of weakness. And it's important that people realize it's not weak to ask for help. It's not weak to get help. It's actually not weak to get emotional and mental help. You think about it, people go to the doctor pretty quickly for a physical ailment, but we're hesitant to go and say, I'm not sleeping right, or I'm drinking too much, or I'm using drugs, or I've started to do other types of things that are destructive. And a person may not realize that. So the thing they have to do, number one, make sure you're talking to other folks and make sure you get some help, because this stuff can go on and affect you in ways you don't realize. And just to summarize, as you asked, it's important to think about the prevention. I'm hopeful that this video saves a life. There's a potential. If it saves one life, it was worth me taking the time to share this. Again, I'm not coming like I'm an expert, but I do have some experience. I can't put that uniform on again. I can't go out there and I don't, I've served. We often call our law enforcement heroes. I'm a retired hero, if you will, and those who are out there on the front line, our son, who's still an officer with Las Vegas Police Department, our friend Kevin, the sheriff, running the leaders of that, that I'm so grateful for what they do, that they're there and keeping us safe every day so we can enjoy this life of retirement. But at the same time, as we talk, we ask ourselves, is there something we could do? Is there something we could do to help make a difference? And I think this will make a difference. I really do. I think it has the potential to save lives. Particularly, somebody might look at this and then one day be in that situation and say, I remember that guy, Charles, talking about if I see something to say something. Talking about JDLR, just don't look right. And saying it's okay to call and tell them that this just seems a little bit suspicious. I'm not sure. Would you mind come checking this out? Not calling 911. You may remember if it happens and wherever it's at a restaurant, at the movies, at a concert event, at church, at a bowling alley. Hey, run. He told, okay, it's happening, run. Don't sit there, don't dismiss it, run, And then if you can't get away, hide. Get behind something that'll stop the bullets. And then if that doesn't work, fight. Going back to the bowling, grab that bowling pin. Slide down that lane and grab that bowling pin and whoop that suspect's ass. Take him or her down. Stop that threat if you can. Now, I'm not saying be a hero, but if you're cornered, Don't just sit there and be a victim. You can stop that threat. Look at that man. That man that was in Australia, he saved lives. And so we may have to do that. And I'll say this too. I hope, I'm so grateful for all the law enforcement that carry off duty, that carry armed. You talk about the sheep, the sheepdog, and the wolf. They used to talk about this. The bad guy, those active shooters, that's the wolf. Law enforcement, retired off-duty law enforcement that are armed, they're the sheepdogs. The folks out there, the regular citizens that's out there laying at the beach, going to church to worship, going to have a bite to eat, our children in school, those are the sheep. What's going to stop the wolf? Nothing but a sheepdog. Otherwise, the wolf will have its way at all of the sheep. We got to take out these threats. And I'm so grateful for the job that our law enforcement does. I'm so grateful for our first responders, FD, to fire. They go in there too. They put themselves in jeopardy, along with our law enforcement brothers and sisters. And so I salute and I commend and I thank God for all our first responders and the service that they do. And I would encourage anybody watching this video, anytime you see a law enforcement person, tell them thanks. Thank them for what they do. Thank you for your service. It means a lot because they're putting their lives on the line. They run towards the gunfire. And lastly, Lisa, I have to tell you this. The threat is real. The threat is real. It's not a matter of if, but when it's going to happen again. I don't say that recklessly. I say that because people need to prepare. You lose count. You lose count of how often this happens. The senselessness. The lack of regard for life just doesn't make sense. The threat is real. It's not a matter of if, but when. So I hope this helps people. I hope people share this video with folks. I hope if I swear or use of expletives, bleep it out, because I'd like kids to see it. I want everybody to see this. This needs to be seen to save people's lives. So thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for asking the question. Anything you like to add? You were there. You were one of those. I know you're a civilian, but you served several years. I wish you were over here on this side. You asked me to do it, but what are any final thoughts from you?
No, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I do think that it will make a difference, and you shared some really, really good nuggets. Things I've heard before that I need to also be reminded of. And so I just want everybody to just be safe, be diligent. Prayers to the families who are hurting right now, communities that are hurting right now. Just stay diligent and stay safe.
Amen. Well, I hope anyone watching this video shares it. And again, babe, thank you for doing this with me. I love you.
Love you.